Second Cup is brought to you by Roswell Park Comprehensive Care Center.
It is 8 o'clock on the start of your Monday. Good morning to you. So glad you're with us for Second Cup. We've got a really special edition of Second Cup here this morning. With us is the mayor-elect, Sean Ryan. Good morning to you. Congratulations.
Thanks so
on
much.
Your win.
Yes,
Yeah,
glad
I
to have you
appreciate
with
it.
us.
How you doing?
I'm feeling pretty good these days.
Good.
It was a long campaign season.
Sure.
Primary general.
Yep.
But we're now through that and feeling rather buoyed today. So it's very nice.
Well, you know, this is exciting times for Buffalo. You know, all things considered, Buffalo is kind of where it is right now, right?
Mhm.
It's not in a great spot financially.
Right.
And there's a lot that could happen moving forward. And you're the guy who's going to
See
be
us
at the
through it
helm.
all.
Yeah. So I guess let's talk top priorities here for you. We know from your campaign it was potholes,
Right.
road maintenance. Give me an idea. You know, you walk into the office day one. What do you do?
Well,
Find the bathroom.
Yeah, you just beat me to my joke.
Put up the pictures. Yeah.
Beat me to my joke. But we've been working since the primary victory. We put together 6 different strike teams, and we're looking at every aspect of city government. Right now, we're working on a transition team. The transition team was announced on Thursday. We held a meeting of all the members on Saturday. Our website is up. The jobs are up on the website, over 80 jobs. We've received over 300 applications so far. So,
Wow.
we need to move quickly, to establish, the cabinet, to establish all the commissioners. And once we establish the commissioners, then we're going to work with the commissioners and the transition team to hire the deputy commissioners. So, there's no deadline on this work. The more you can get done before January 1 will allow you to, to hit the ground running. But our priority is getting, the best and the brightest, the hardest working people in, to the government, not deadline set by me.
So it's not uncommon for new leaders to bring in new leadership underneath them, right? As we
Sure.
talk about, the heads of different departments. But what I think is relatively new, and if you haven't had a chance to look at this, I was scrolling through the website the other day looking at all of the jobs listed.
Yeah.
So now we have people, rather than being appointed, we have people who are going to be applying and going through an interview process to get each position?
Yeah, they're going to go through an interview. We have a transition team made up of Dr. Marie Cannon, who's the head of CAO and was the head of Erie County Department of Social Services, the hardest government job in all of Western New York.
Especially right now.
Yeah. And then Trini Ross, who was the U.S. attorney for the Western District, who was the lead prosecutor who brought us through the 514 tragedy. So, we've assembled those 2 women at the top. And once again, we have about half dozen different components. And the people on the DPW team will be interviewing commissioners and deputies in that category. People from the community services will be interviewing, and they'll present to me between 1 and 3 candidates, for the final interview, and I'll then be the decider on who we bring in ultimately.
Look, I'm a credit where credit is due kind of guy, and I think that this speaks volumes of your desire to move Buffalo forward, to take what was in Buffalo and move it forward, move it in a
Right.
different direction, right?
Right.
What it seems to me, based on what you're saying here and based on the job postings that you are now looking to hire for, is that you're trying to almost clean house from what was Byron Brown.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's the right word, but every new leader assembles their team.
Sure.
And there's 2 types of government jobs. One is civil service protected. In those jobs, you stay in those jobs unless something really bad happens. But the remaining jobs are what we call exempt or mayoral appointees.
Right.
So you've got to appoint your own management team. You can't inherit someone's management team. So you got to bring your own management team in because those are the folks that have to push the government in the direction you want it to go. And ultimately, that's how I'll be judged as a leader.
Sure.
So you better bring in your own management team, and you better have confidence in the management team.
Can I just follow up? I
Sure.
want to make sure that I'm clear here, and I think that it's interesting hearing that from you in positions, as Katie mentioned, that are typically appointed. We're talking police commissioner, fire commissioner,
That's right.
DPW commissioner. You are now looking for those people to apply.
Yes.
So are we to assume here, or can we basically surmise that people like William Ronaldo, Alfonso Wright will not be there when you are mayor?
There's a fire and police commissioner.
Yeah, well, those two in particular, I believe, have both publicly announced they're retiring. So that's an easy question.
Okay.
But here's sort of my strength, and it's the same time a weakness. I don't know anyone in City Hall. Never worked in city government. So I'm not walking in with favorites. I'm not walking in with relationships. We're going to have an impartial team, review everybody, and we're going to find the best person. And if the best person currently sits in that seat, that's the person that we are going to keep in that job. It's a different way to do it, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of mayors come in and there is no search because they know exactly who they're putting in those jobs. I don't have a list of people going into those jobs. I don't have patronage people I'm bringing in. I don't have my daughters, my cousins, my uncles coming into those jobs. So we're really putting the net out there to say, do you want to help change the city of Buffalo that you love? We all know that government jobs don't pay as the same as private sector.
There's some pretty good salaries in there.
There are, yeah. But we'll have hopefully the best and the brightest, because we believe that working in government is akin to working in a nonprofit. You want to change the world you're in, come on in and try to work in government to see if we can change.
If you don't mind, let me just ask one more question about jobs.
Sure.
There are people who have been loyal to you. There are people who have been loyal to the Democratic Party.
Yep.
Can we expect, and I know for a fact that there are people out there who are hopeful, if not expectant, to get a job within the administration based on their loyalty to you and the Democratic Party. Is that something that we can expect moving forward?
There's always going to be people come in. I'm going to bring people into my mayor's suite, or people who I've worked with before. People who work on my current team. The closest people to you are generally people you have relationships with. But you look out throughout the commissioners. I don't have anyone on my team, looking to be a police commissioner or the commissioner of DPW, or to be the management of the information systems. So, I've been around the private sector, the public sector, the nonprofit. Most of my friends, my peer groups, they're ensconced in a career, and they're not looking to make a change. But what they are looking to do is help me fill those seats with the best and brightest.
Great.
So I've asked, my peer group to look inside their companies, to look inside the nonprofits they manage. Who do you have on your team that could come into government and excel? And the other interesting thing we're doing, we're reaching out to the largest Buffalo companies, ask them to come play a role.
Great.
Will you help on the transition process? So M&T's on the transition team, but also, can you help with expertise? Can you do a loaned executive program? Will you loan me someone from your company for 1 or 2 years, to help us do this turnaround? So, we're doing a lot right now, but the whole goal is you got to build your team that can accomplish things. And if you don't build that team, you're going to struggle from the start.
Right.
Ian, did you hear that you're in?
Elizabeth, I see your question here. We were going to get to that in 1 second. I would like to just ask first, when we talk about finances, because this is the biggest thing that we're coming into here. We know what we're looking at in the city of Buffalo, or we're getting to the point where we're going to have more definite numbers, and you've got a team taking a look at that. And I think that everybody who watches the show is familiar. I'm married to a firefighter, so I hear a lot of the conversation. I am, yeah. So
good one. Too.
no, but you hear conversations from city employees, and I think when people who work for the city hear control board and the possibility of a control board, there's a lot that goes behind that. The last time we had a state-imposed control board, they froze wages for city workers. We know we have a police contract coming up. We have a fire contract coming up. This is a big topic of conversation. Can you talk about the potential of a control board, what you envision for how we're going to move forward with finances, and is that going to play a role?
Yeah. I mean, look, we are very far away from needing a control board in the city of Buffalo. It's the last thing we need. Because as you said, the last time we had a control board, they balanced the budget on the backs of city workers. That was what they did.
Right.
But people need to know what a wage freeze means. That means if you're making $38,100, then for the next X years, you're making that exact same amount of money. It was awful for our teachers, our firefighters, our snowplow drivers. We lost so many good people during that time period. So there's no magic wand of bringing in the control board and everything goes away.
Right.
It doesn't. The last time the control board came in, the situations were so different. We were at the top of our tax cap. We were at the top of our borrowing cap. We'd set up a city government that supports a lot of programs. The property values were plummeting in the city of Buffalo. That was then. Today's a much different time period. We're in a fiscal straits now because of bad fiscal management. There's not external forces causing this problem like there were 20 years ago. So, I would consider the control board coming in a failure. I've spoken to members of the control board. I said, hold your horses here. You got to give me a time, to lead. Give me a effort. Give me the time to put my plan together to bring Buffalo out of it.
And just one more thing too, would your plan right now include a tax increase? Because that's the other thing that we get,
Well, I would tell you this, if someone tells you we don't need to raise taxes, they're lying to you. So we went 19 years in the city of Buffalo without raising taxes. That's what I said. This financial situation it's self-imposed. We did it to ourselves. It would be like if you cut your hours down, but increased your spending. What would happen to your personal checkbook?
I'd get yelled at.
You get yelled at, yeah. But
I do the yelling.
That's what Buffalo did. But there's revenues we're leaving on the table all over. We have millions of dollars of unused state grants. We collect less than 10% of our fines. That's all we bring in. We haven't done a foreclosure auction in over 5 years. So there's a lot of different revenue sources. But to really get out of this, we're going to need help from New York State. So we're going to put a plan together to do a soft landing to help Buffalo incrementally bring our revenues up, control our expenditures. But there's going to be that delta, the gap for like 3 years. So we would like as a soft landing from New York State. We'll work with them. We'll commit to efficiencies. We'll commit to raising our revenues. But we can't have a tax shock in the city of Buffalo. Too many people who are on fixed income, seniors. You bought a house 20 years ago in Buffalo for $50,000. Well, your incomes didn't really go up, especially if you're a senior. So we can't have a tax shock. So we need to have a soft landing. And we're going to be able to work with our government partners in Erie County and New York State to help us get that soft landing.
Okay, so let's talk realities here. So you mentioned taxes will likely go up.
Sure. I mean, just to be clear, Cheektowaga, not in a financial crisis.
Right.
Just raise their taxes 8%.
Correct. Right. So, okay, so let's talk for the city of Buffalo without getting that tax shock, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
What can we expect to see in terms of a tax increase under your leadership?
I wish I could tell you right now, but until we know, until you can tell me what their deficit is, then we can't tell you how we're going to fix it.
You did also mention efficiency.
That's where I was going next. Yeah.
Can you?
What do you cut?
Yeah.
Efficiencies and cuts aren't the same thing. So, are we using our police department dispatch the most effective way? Are we dispatching our snowplows the right way? So efficiencies will genuinely help you reduce your escalation of costs. Buffalo's down to the bone in terms of hiring. There's positions throughout the city budget that have been unfilled and are unfilled for years because they've been balancing their budgets on these phony phantom positions. So we're going to have to hire into some of those positions. So the efficiency is not going to be cuts. The efficiency are going to be used to do cost containment. So your out-year budgets aren't going up really quickly. And that's what's been happening in Buffalo. The administrations have been untruthful about how much money is going to come in, and they've been untruthful how much money they're going to spend. So this year's budget, we are going to put in an accurate number. How much is overtime going to be? How much is healthcare going to be? Not these phony numbers that allow you to vote on the budget only to have it go into deficit.
Your opponent during this race, James Gardner, the Republican, had mentioned that raising taxes alone won't solve the problems fiscally.
He's absolutely right.
And so then, while you're talking about efficiencies and making sure everything is done the right way, will you commit then to not making any cuts?
Well, no, I mean, look.
In terms of service, in terms of staff.
No, you can't commit to these things. If you commit to these things, you're going to have your budget blow up. You have to be nimble and flexible. I mean, revenues come up and down throughout the years. It's sort of like a toy train. If you move the lever back and forth.
Sure.
So you've got to stay, very nimble. If suddenly our revenues are going down, then you better stop your hiring, for that year. So you got to stay flexible.
What services could potentially be on the chopping block then?
I think, let me just try this again.
I
What we
understand
offer
what you're
right now in the city of Buffalo
Yeah.
is bare bones.
Mhm.
So the way we're going to save money is to stop the escalation of growth.
Right.
We got overtime is out of control in several city departments. We're already 10 million past our yearly budgeted overtime goal, and we're not even halfway through the budget year. So those are the cost containments. Those are the efficiencies
Right.
that you need to have take place.
But we're not talking like garbage. We're not talking recycling. We're talking things that are budgetary.
We're saying let's set these numbers at where you think they
Right.
need to be versus where they have been set.
Yeah, in the past, they've artificially set the overtime
Right.
and then
Right.
blow it by
Got it.
tens of millions of dollars.
Mhm.
They artificially say, well, healthcare is only going to grow X percent,
Right.
while every quarter before it's grown way more than that. So this year's budget it'll be an honest budget, and it'll show the true gap rather than waiting to the end of the year to say,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, we finished in deficit.
Right.
That's not honest budgeting. So we're going to have honest budgeting.
So Elizabeth wants to know how you're going to improve the, I think she means efficiency of the
Yep.
police force, because on the neighborhood level, they are non-existent. So tell us what you think in terms of the police department needs to improve,
Yep.
and perhaps what you are hopeful you can achieve.
Sure. I mean, I've got a full public safety platform, that we talked about. It's not just the police department. It's working with mental hygiene folks. It's working with violence interrupters. But what people want out of their police department is transparency
Mhm.
and accountability. They want to know when they make that call, what's the response time going to be?
Yeah.
And if there is bad response time, that's the accountability part. That's when it falls back on me as the civilian leader of the police department to say what's going on with response time. So we have to set this public expectation. Is a 911 call a certain level, and that'll get a response, this short, or is it a complaint about noise, which will have a longer response time? But unless you let the public know, people are going to be confused and unhappy.
So on that note, then, right now the way the city operates is that there's one person kind of controlling the narrative for both the police, fire, and then also on the city side, on the city government side.
Who's that?
It's Mike Reed, who really.
I don't know who that is.
Well, so the mayor's spokesperson is essentially the person
Okay.
who speaks on behalf of the fire, police, and city.
And then often, should you want to speak with the head of another department, usually in the past, we've had to go through a city spokesperson.
Yeah, I mean, what I would like to set up is to have the commissioners talking about the issues that are going on in their department.
Independently of the city.
Well, they work for the city,
Well,
so
sure,
they
sure,
can't
sure.
be independent.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that we wouldn't have to go through you or your office to get to any of these commissioners.
You're getting a little grainy on the details right now, but I would just say we would like to have the commissioners speaking about the job that they do and what's going on in their department. That's my goal. And this is the idea of bringing professionals in, because professionals should be able to talk about what they're doing in their departments and stand up for their department. Or if there's a problem, accountability means we say, well, we missed that one, but here's what we're doing to do better.
So again, here on this show, you have the opportunity to bring your questions directly to the mayor-elect. So I want to bring in Sherry's question here, because she had a question about taxes
Right.
and then assessments. And her point is the cities reassess property values, hence they've already increased taxes in that concept. If you increase again, she thinks people will leave. So we did see a reassessment, and we did, there are people who are now paying more. Do you see any sort of reassessments moving forward? How do you answer Sherry, who has this concern?
Well, you should keep current on your reassessment. That's what you're supposed to do. And the other reason we got into this financial bind is because the city didn't reassess for over a decade. So every other town in Erie County reassesses all the time.
Mhm.
So you do the full reassessment to make sure everyone's up to market value. And then when there's sales in neighborhoods, you then reassess. Because the last thing you want as the city is to have your houses artificially assessed.
Mhm.
That's not the way to go. That's how we got into this problem. So breaking that old behavior of, well, my house hadn't been reassessed in 20 years.
Right.
So I was paying taxes at a $40,000 rate when my house would go for $200,000. Those days are over. That's the reasons why we don't plow our streets, why we don't fix our potholes, is because we deprived ourselves of resources. And I would just remind people that if the city of Buffalo had kept up with its taxes, if they had done 2-3% increases over the last decade, we wouldn't be in this problem. But cable bill goes up every year. Your cell phone bill goes up every year. But the city of Buffalo tried to defy gravity and have it so their rates didn't go up. But we know everything went up. The cost to run the city to go up. We have contracts where our wages went up every year. So what the city did is every year they finished the deficit. So they took out of the reserve account year after year until there was no more reserve account. So I'm going to enter into office with $0 in unassigned fund balance on a reserve account. It's not where you want to be fiscally.
So let me ask you on that fiscal note about the ROLL program. This is the replacing old lead lines program that the City of Buffalo Water Authority runs. ROLL is really effective for some of these people who are on fixed incomes, who are low income, who need to have their pipes replaced.
Right.
On Friday, we reported that the ROLL program was quietly paused and that people who were dealing with this program were not necessarily even going to be notified until further down the line. Number one, I kind of wanted you to hear what the one woman we spoke with had to say, and I want your response to her. So, Jordan, if you would, just roll that soundbite for us. Jordan.
Everybody around here, who really got $15,000 to $20,000 set aside? That's what the program. That's what a lot of these government and city programs are implemented for helping the less fortunate. It should be based on the fact that if you have a need and you apply and you meet the criteria, then you should get the assistance.
So she's really upset because really now what the Water Authority is saying is that all of this cost could fall on these people, whereas the city was paying to replace all of these old lead lines. Isn't this kind of a reason why there's such a lack of trust in government, especially in local government? And what do you think should happen here?
Yeah, once again, this is a pretty granular question. I'm not running any of these departments right now. I know we're going to have a big focus and concentration on lead-safe housing.
Right, you mentioned that.
Really interested in, it's an imperative that we reduce the rates of childhood lead poisoning in the city of Buffalo. We're going to double down on interior inspections before children move into houses. We've had a higher lead poisoning rate amongst children in the city of Buffalo year in and year out than Flint, Michigan had during the height of their water crisis. So we've got a lot of work, to do on lead. But lead is, pernicious and so dangerous to the developing brain. So we need to make sure that we set up goals for reducing our lead poisoning level.
And I do think when we talk about that, and we talk about old houses too, we so often do think of the paint. But is the water line something else that you'll be taking a look at? I think is
everything. I mean, lead-safe housing, it includes the foundation around your house, the dirt around your house, your windowsills, the paint inside, the water, coming in. So lead's a problem in cities. But, if you look at where the poisoning takes place, it's not just old houses. It's old houses that are poorly maintained. I live in a census tract. I raise my children. My census tract does not have a high lead poisoning rate. The census tract right next door, same housing stock, has a high lead poisoning rate. And that's an area of a lot of absentee owners. So it's an old house that's poorly maintained. That's the double punch that gets you lead poisoning.
Michael wants to know, are you going to be using Buffalo Police for security detail or using a private company? He says, so police can focus on policing. That's his question, not mine.
We're exploring that right now. And we're exploring the contractual requirements that are already in place where you might prevent you from using a private company.
I was also interested too in your take on policing. We kind of started talking about it a little bit, but on your website you mentioned data-driven policing.
Yes.
I'd like to hear a little bit about that, but also how do you feel about the community policing that we've kind of been moving more towards? So, walking the streets, having police
patrol
officers
program,
out there.
right.
I mean, the community policing efforts is, that's the cutting edge policing,
Okay.
right? So if you go to any community meetings around Buffalo, you're going to see a community police officer, at the meeting. You go to a blog club meeting, you're going to have a community policing officer there. It's really how people are in touch with the police department and the police officers, and those community police officers do an excellent job. Every block club leader has their cell phone. They do deal with a lot of the quality of life issues, noisy parties, what to do about a house that's in disrepair. They act as the ombudsman for a lot of city complaints, and they do a terrific job.
I just want to interrupt you for a second because I'm just watching the clock here. We're going to have to jump in with
We
Aaron.
should have told you this.
Yeah,
Aaron has
sorry.
to come in and do weather.
So we'll join in with Aaron in just a second, but on the and we'll cut you off in a sec too.
Okay.
Sorry, don't mean to be rude to you. One of the things in terms of policing is also the car break-ins and the thefts. And when you look at the Foot Patrol Integration Unit surveys, that's what a lot of people are still seeing is the highest aspect for them in terms of community policing. We've seen that go down, sure, but it's still a big issue for so many people. So I wonder, and we'll talk about this on the other side after Aaron, what you think should be done or could be done to make sure that people's fears and concerns are alleviated.
Sure.
I mean, you do hear that all the time.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what neighborhood, everybody in the city talks about car issues walking down the street. He's going to walk in here 2 seconds. Just saying.
We're stalling here. We're trying to stretch this out just a little bit, but the question is there. So think of your answer.
I'm waiting at the end. After the weather, you're going to get a great
End of
answer.
the tunnel, yeah. Once we tell you how much it's going to snow. All right, so everybody stand by. Aaron's going to do his forecast. You'll be able to hear that too, and then we'll get back to that. Answer the question.
Hey, good morning, everyone. We're looking at traffic right now. Here's a view of the 33 inbound is a slow go right now. You have the snow coming down, a lot of congestion, no accidents, but certainly slow as you make your way into downtown Buffalo with the big flakes coming down right now. We check out the radar and notice that snow right now from Buffalo up toward Niagara Falls, back into Lockport, Middleport, Medina, Albion, along the 290, the 990, the 190, the 33, the thruway. Snow is coming down. Hamburg toward East Aurora, Sheldon over toward Holland, and then down across the southern tier, we have that snow from Mayville to Dunkirk, stretching over towards Springville and Concord. We do have one issue right now still that we're watching. It looks like they finally opened 20A, but still a slow go through there as roads are pretty slick and snow covered, especially inland away from Lake Erie. Currently, we have a temperature of 27 degrees, winds out of the northwest at 8 miles per hour, 26 in Niagara Falls, 25 right now in Jamestown. Feels like it's in the teens across the area, and that's how it's going to stay throughout the day. Here's your hourly forecast. Temperatures near 30 degrees this afternoon with snow showers off and on, winds out of the northwest around 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting near 20 at times. Snow totals for today. So by 11 p.m. today, about 2 to 3 inches of snow across Niagara and Orleans counties, an inch or so here in Buffalo. South of Buffalo, some higher amounts, a couple of inches for East Aurora, Orchard Park toward Hamburg, about 2 to 4 from Eden to Boston, Colden into Holland. Higher amounts for Gowanda, Cassadaga, Stockton, Cherry Creek, South Dayton. You're in that 4 to 6 inch range. The numbers do go down as you make your way toward Allegheny County. We'll have that snow today. And then tonight, we'll see that lake band really start to better organize south of Buffalo. Your forecast for today. A high of 32 degrees with snow showers, generally an inch or so of accumulation, a few more inches north and south of Buffalo. Snow will continue down in ski country tonight. We'll have snow showers tomorrow, rain and snow on Wednesday. Not bad for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
I grew up here, but the people in the southern tier are hardier than me as I'm looking at the amount of snow that they're expected to get. Good for them. All right, so we promised you an answer to your question on the other side of weather.
So we need to have a police department that's responsive to what's going on in the community. So the good news is major crimes are down. And, that is a blessing. Police department under Commissioner Joseph Gramaglia really reactivated the detectives units after COVID. We had that spike in shooting, murders, all the major crimes. But that detectives unit has been so responsive. It's managed to drive down crime. So now we got to deal with the nuisance crime. And we have to put an effort on that. We have to figure out what's the best practices. But, a lot of the car thefts, we got to work with the manufacturers, right? So the whole Kia theft became because a kid in 2 minutes can figure out how to start a Kia without a key. BMW has a similar problem now, where you can start BMWs from the street with something akin to a garage door opener. So the keyless entry to our cars have really become problematic. And it's also makes it easier to leave your keys in your car.
Sure
if
does.
you're not actually taking it out. And so the Buffalo Police report that over 50% of car thefts are cars that had their keys left in them. So we need to work on that.
I guess finally here, when we had James Gardner on, and I actually spoke with Michael Gaynor, both of your candidates, they said that they would be willing to work with you had they lost the election. Are you willing to work with them?
Sure, I work with anybody. I mean, we have a very open process. If anyone's got good ideas, bring them into City Hall. We're going to set up a big table at City Hall. So anyone who wants to come in, talk about ideas, give their input. I'm not the type of leader who says, I know everything. So in order to get to the policy goals we want, in order to deliver the services we want, we need to bring everyone to the table to figure out the best way to do that.
Well, we do appreciate you coming
I know,
on the
this
show.
is awesome.
And yeah, we'd love to have you again.
Yeah, well,
if
you want to do this monthly?
Yeah.
Ian?
Talk to me after I get sworn in.
But it's great because you know what? Everybody's able to bring their questions directly to you. And when do you get that opportunity? That's why we love Second Cup.
Yeah.
So we invite you to come back whenever you want.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate
Maybe
you
once a
having me on.
All right, everyone. Thank you again for your questions. We
Thank you.
appreciate you. Hope you have a great day. Stay safe and drive slowly this morning. It's so gross outside.
Take care. Make sure you get
Have a
that
great
snow
day,
brush.
everybody.
See
Bye,
ya.
guys.